Awesome. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Maral Vargas. I am a program specialist at the CEO Sustainability Division, working on our county's climate action plan. Thank you for attending the third part of our Brown Bag Lunch series. This series aims to introduce county employees and sustainability initiatives and programs that the Sustainability Division is doing and other agencies that are doing, and how you can get involved. I appreciate you all attending for your lunch period. We want to try to make this to be short and concise so that's informative for you all and you get what you need and that you still have enough time to enjoy the rest of your lunch. I just want to go over some housekeeping reminders. The webinar will be recorded and I'll put a link later of where you can see those recordings. If you've happened to miss the other two that we had, you can view those there. And once this event ends, we'll also put the recording on there on our sustainability website. Feel free to use the chat to ask any questions. We might have some time later on for a Q&A section. So, in the spirit of keeping this concise, we're not sure about that. So please just put it on the chat and that can be ensured that we can answer it as we're going along. Awesome. And for this series, we'll be talking about 3C-REN's The Switches On campaign, along with their home energy savings program. 3C-REN is one of the Sustainability Division's initiative that delivers energy saving programs and industry training to help reduce energy use, strengthen local job markets, and support efforts to achieve climate goals. Here to talk about 3C-REN's programs are Erica Nelson and Ian Logan. Awesome. So the first question I have for you all is about the Switches On campaign. I'm just curious to hear more about it and how does it work?
Thanks, Maral. I can take that one. So I'm Erica Helson. I'm the portfolio manager for 3C-REN. And I think that we have given a little bit of an overview of 3C-REN in the past, so I won't spend too much time on that. But if you have questions about 3C-REN, feel free again to drop it in the chat. So the Switches On, and I'll show my screen in a moment, but the Switches On is a statewide campaign, and it was designed to provide Californians with the information, tools, and resources needed to switch their homes from homes that rely on both gas and electricity to power all of our home systems to homes that are fully electric. So that's why it's called the Switches On. So the campaign was originally started in 2019 by the Building Decarbonization Coalition. And one of the major goals of the campaign is to help the state achieve its goal of being carbon neutral by 2045. And going electric is a really crucial part of that, which Ian will speak to. So 3C-REN, we're a partnership between the counties of Ventura, Santa Barbara, and San Luis Obispo. And we joined on as a Switches On partner because what the Switches On is doing and the information and resources that they're providing is really well aligned to the 3C-REN mission of reducing energy use and reducing associated energy emissions from our local region here in the tri-counties. So as a Switches On partner, the reason we joined on as a partner is we really want to make sure that the Switches On is not just reaching the urban areas. We know that here on the Central Coast, sometimes it's harder for us to get access to information and resources. So that's a big part of what 3C-REN does. And we wanted to make sure with the Switches On that we can help shape that campaign and really ensure that the information that the Switches On is sharing reaches our local community. So that's just some background on Switches On.
Awesome. Well, that's great. And you said that you have the Switches On for you to show us how the website works and a bit about that.
Let me pull that up. Okay. Are you seeing the right screen, hopefully?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. So this is the Switches On website, and a lot of what they're providing is information. So they have a section for everyone and then a section for contractors. So we, the everyone, can find some resources here. There's information on what electrification is, all the different components. There's also a rebate finder. So I'm in Ojai 93023, and it shows me what kind of rebate programs are available.
Mhm.
And our team is also happy to talk through. We're pretty familiar with most of these programs. And then they also have some features. They call this like the home electrification assistant. So basically, if you plug in your address, if you're looking for a water heater, they'll help you with some models that might qualify and can try and connect you to a contractor. So if you poke around this this website, there's lots of good information here.
Mm. And that's great. I think we can definitely put that on the chat for people to explore. I know I have explored it, and there's a lot of opportunities there, from like you mentioned, like from solar panels to heat pumps and all that. And I'd be curious to hear just a bit more of why it's important for people to electrify their homes in that part.
Yeah, I can take that one. My name's Ian Logan. I have been with county sustainability for about 2 years now. I manage our workforce education and training program. It's called the Building Performance Training Program, where we focus not just on building electrification, but a holistic approach with energy efficiency and building science practices. But yeah, I think why should people electrify their homes? I think that our buildings, both homes and commercial buildings, use much more energy than one might anticipate. In 2020, our homes and commercial buildings accounted for 13% of total US greenhouse gas emissions. A lot of these emissions are indirect, and depend on where energy is sourced from, based on our utility or a community choice entity. A lot of these emissions are created on site for creature comforts, for things like heating, cooling, cooking, water heating, all the things that make our spaces more comfortable to live in. This is where electrifying our homes really comes into play. It's kind of the greenhouse gas emissions that are coming from within our own homes and are directly associated with our personal actions and choices. I think, somebody that is going to choose to electrify their home would share the same motivations as someone that would choose to drive an electric vehicle over a conventional car. In addition to greenhouse gas emissions and climate change, there's also added health and safety benefits to electrification. Most of the electric appliances out there are running really efficiently at this point, and create really comfortable, customizable spaces to live in. Also, the elephant in the room, gas is really combustible. And it, as I think we all know, is directly linked to health risks like asthma, headaches, COPD, and others.
Yeah, well, that's great. I know, coming in from the sustainability division, I have that sustainability aspect of looking at it, of why you should electrify your home. You forget about the other benefits of health risk, and even when it comes to rebates, ways you can save money if you're already thinking of buying a home appliance.
Mhm.
I know for me, I have a gas stove, and I've been wanting to get like an electric stove, just because already sometimes when we turn it on, the gas doesn't ignite in itself. So that's something I'm looking into. And I'd just be curious to hear, what other appliances and systems can also be electrified.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, gas stoves are kind of one of the more obvious ones. My kitchen's set up where I walk past it anytime I exit the kitchen. Like, knobs can easily get bumped and go unnoticed with gas leaks. Yeah, so I think your stove and oven are kind of the pretty obvious ones where we're using them a lot. We're like directly cooking over a flame, really up in your face, whether it be particulates coming from that stove or smoke from the pan. Definitely have health risks associated with that. I think there used to be a big push for home electrification in the 50s and 60s, and I mean, I'm sure a lot of us grew up with electric stoves, those coil stoves. induction cooking is the electric form of cooking for the future, I think. It's super efficient, pretty cool systems where, I mean, we all kind of have that reliance on the gas stove. We love seeing the flame and feeling the heat, but induction's really efficient, and I think kind of a no-brainer as far as safety and health risks go.
And for
Couple
those who
of-
don't know, can you explain what induction cooktop is?
Yeah,
how it works?
it's essentially, a transfer of energy via magnetic current. So the pan you're using needs to be the right metal where it's, conducting or inducting from the stovetop. They're kind of unique. I don't know a ton about them, but I have gotten to cook on them a few times, and it's impressive how quickly you're able to boil water or how consistently you're able to fry an egg. It's interesting. It's definitely different, and I think it would take a learning curve, but definitely more safe for having in your house. But yeah, so your cooktop is one of them. HVAC heat pump technology has come a long way. I think it's really obvious for things like, heating and cooling with a mini split. They're both ducted and ductless heat pumps for heating and cooling of your homes. And then there's the overlooked one. Water heaters are also developing with heat pump technology that can, your water heater is constantly running, or virtually constantly running, in your basement or your closet to keep, water hot for showers, washing dishes, what have you. I think that's one that goes overlooked because it's out of sight, out of mind. But, in our temperate climate, it is almost more relied upon than heating and cooling elements. So definitely something to check off the list with electrifying. And then, yeah, I think, a more obvious one would be clothes dryers. Electric clothes dryers have been around for quite a while, and it's just as simple as plugging it into the wall.
Nice. And all of these that you're mentioning, imagine, is on the Switches On campaign, and there's rebates for that and contractors to get in contact with, correct?
There are, yeah. And I think so. The Switch is On portal is definitely more public facing for all of us. And then, for 3C-REN, we have our home energy savings program, which is a little more focused on contractors and getting incentive for contractors to install these measures. But there too, there's plenty of money to be had if you're looking to upgrade your appliances.
Awesome. Well, great. I know apart from the Switches On, the 3C-REN also has a home energy savings program. And yeah, I think the audience would love to hear more about that. Erica, could you, elaborate on those programs?
Sure. So 3C-REN, we launched our programs in mid-2019, but we started with our educational programs more for the workforce. Our home energy savings program launched in 2020, like right in line with COVID. So we've been changing up the program model, but I think that we're launching a new era of the home energy savings program. Our multifamily program launched October 2019, and then we just more recently launched our single family program. So there's two tracks on this program. If you live in a home that has a single family home or up to 4 units, that would fall under our single family program. And then if you live in a building with multiple units, 5 or more units, that would fall under our multifamily program. Both programs are for existing buildings. They're not for new construction. There are some different programs for new construction, and we'd be happy to connect you with those if those are of interest. The single family program, as I mentioned, we just launched this. So right now our focus is on enrolling contractors. So if you know any contractors who are interested in an incentive program, please send them our way. There's a contractor enrollment form on our website, and I can drop that in the chat. But just to give you a preview of how this program will work, basically once you find an enrolled contractor, you can work on any project that saves energy. So some of the types of projects that Ian mentioned, maybe you're replacing your heater or your air conditioner and you want to go with an all-electric heat pump. Maybe you're adding insulation to your attic, replacing windows, really any project that saves energy, so either kilowatt hours or therms, will be eligible for this program. So it's just a matter of working with the contractor to figure out how much energy will be saved. So we will have more information to share once we've enrolled more contractors, and we'll be sure to promote this program to the county. For the multifamily program, if there's anyone who lives in a multifamily building or who works with multifamily property owners or managers, we'd love to get in touch with them. This program is a really good opportunity for buildings that are doing large renovations. And the requirement is just that you do 3 different measures. So maybe you're doing insulation, replacing windows, and then converting from gas water heaters to heat pump water heaters, for example. The individual apartment units would be eligible for up to $500 to $750 per apartment unit. And then there are these like what we call bonus incentives for the electrification measures. So $1,000 for each heat pump water heater. So the 2 programs are a little bit different. The single family program is really custom to what you're doing, and it's based on actual metered savings. So we need to see that the savings a year later have proven out. For the multifamily program, it's a more traditional rebate program where you know in advance, you know, water heater gets $1,000, an apartment unit with 3 measures gets $500, or if it's an affordable housing complex, $750. So that's a bit about our 2 different programs. And then the other thing that I wanted to mention, and I will again just pull up our website.
And Ian put it in the chat, the 3C-REN website, so feel free to check it out yourself.
Yeah, so this is our home energy savings landing page where you can see our 2 different programs that we have. But what I wanted to highlight is we also have this DIY toolkit. And if you've attended any of our events before, we may have talked about it. These are available through our local libraries. So if you're interested in doing some of the light energy efficiency projects at home, like some weather strips, replacing light bulbs with LEDs, using a kilowatt meter to see how much energy your different appliances are using, I encourage you to go check this out from the library. And then next month, we're launching another program in partnership with the libraries, which is our induction cooktop lending program. So it's a single burner. You can just plug it in. The kit comes with a pan that you can use that does work with the electromagnetism. So that will be a good opportunity, like Ian was talking about, just to see the technology for yourself, see if you like it. And I think that those are the highlights that I wanted to share for our home energy savings program.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Erica. And if people want to contact 3C-REN and they're interested in the single family homes, or they know contractors, what's the best way to get in contact with you all?
On our website, it depends on, we can direct you to some specific links. So I just put the toolkit in, and then I'm also going to put in the contractor participation. But if you just have general questions, info@3c-ren.org is the best way to get in touch with us. And of course, as county employees, anyone can feel free to reach out to Ian or myself directly.
Great. Well, those are some great resources. This purpose of the sustainability brown bag is to see how employees can get involved. I think you gave some good information on that part. Is there any last things you would like to mention on either upcoming events or things to be on the lookout for later on?
I think, well, we do have a lot of workforce training on our website under a calendar of events. Big shout out to Javier Salcedo, who's been doing great work with the county libraries and doing DIY toolkit presentations just to spread the word about those. We are interested in doing more household education kind of using the same network that we have been for the toolkits. I think maybe relevant just because it's occurring in Ventura County. On July 21st, we have our first, returning to in-person event. It's our quarterly regional forum. It's really focused on building code and the California Energy Code specifically, but could be of interest if you have anybody in your family or network that does work in the trades, and maybe working firsthand with Title 24 or any of those measures. It'll be on July 21st for about 4 hours from 10 to 1:30 p.m. at the County of Ventura Museum in downtown.
Ian, I dropped the wrong link in the chat. The event that you are working on in September, the home remodeling and resiliency workshop, several months away, but I thought that one was also worth mentioning because it's more geared towards residents.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and that one will focus more in depth on home electrification and kind of the through lines of both grid and fire resiliency. So yeah, it's on September 27th, and it's with a woman named Ann Edminster, who we work really closely with. She's kind of recognized state or even nationwide on these topics. So yeah, September 27th from noon to 1:30, similar to this as a lunch and learn.
Great. Well, happy to hear about upcoming events, and briefly mentioned it in the beginning of our event that we have a new website, a sustainability division website that shows all the events that 3C-REN's doing, along with our other initiative, BCREA, and our climate action plan. So I'll drop that link again, and you can see those events that Ian and Erica were mentioning that are happening in September and in July. Yeah. And as a reminder, all the recordings for this webinar and the past ones are on the SharePoint site. So that's also within our sustainability website. That's just send a link on there. And the more direct one is the first one I sent. So all those recordings, if you happen to miss one, you can view it back. And yeah, just want to say thank you, Erica and Ian, for taking the time to talk about the Switches On campaign and the Home Energy Savings Program, and for everyone for attending. And just as a reminder, we will have our next brown bag event on Thursday, July 21st on home weatherization. So the toolkit that Erica was mentioning will go a little bit more in depth about that. We'll have Javier Salcedos, who's here today. He'll be presenting about that, and it's right on time to save yourself from the summer heat that I'm definitely feeling already. Great.
Thank you, Meryl.
Yeah, thank you all. Besides that, if this is the end of the session, if anyone has questions, haven't seen any in the chat, feel free to raise your hand or put them in the chat if you do have any questions. We're happy to answer them.
While we're waiting, Meryl, there is one thing that we should have mentioned. On the Switches On website, when they launched the campaign, there were a lot of incentives available for heat pumps, and the money went really quickly, but there is a little bit of funding left for heat pump water heaters in Southern California. So the rest of the state in Northern California, they already expended the funding. But there are $3,000 incentives available for heat pump water heaters. And I will find that link as well and put it in the chat.
Okay, great. Thank you for doing that. And we actually had a question come in, which is right in line with what you just said. I'm just asking what a heat pump is, and I think it'd be great to also know about the difference between that and a heat pump water heater. What you said.
Sure, I will take a crack at it, and Ian, you can jump in.
Okay.
So a heat pump is it's the same technology that our refrigerators use. So these are called air source heat pumps. So basically it just, and heat pumps can be applied to a refrigerator, to a water heater, to your heating and cooling system. There's a lot of different functionalities for them. But what the technology does essentially is it extracts the heat from the air. So I'll just take a water heater, for example. You want to heat the water. So there's a heat pump that sits right on top of the water heater tank. and what air passes through the heat pump, and the heat pump extracts any trace amounts of heat that are in that air. So even if it's a relatively cool environment, it can still find those little bits of heat, and then it uses refrigerant to make it hotter and then heat up your water. So it's really efficient because it's kind of just using the passive energy that's in the air rather than having to burn a fossil fuel in order to heat your water. The way it works with a refrigerator is sort of the opposite, where it's taking the heat out of your refrigerator. So it's taking all that air and grabbing the heat and expelling it so that all you're left with is the cool air inside. So you can see how a heat pump could work for either heating or cooling. So in the wintertime, you can take the hot air and push it outside. Sorry, did I mix that up? And then in the summertime, you have all your cool air inside. So that's what the technology is. And as I mentioned, it has a lot of different applications. Heat pumps and refrigerators have obviously been around for a long time. Heat pumps on water heaters, that's a little bit newer. Heat pumps for heating and cooling, that's becoming much more common. And to be honest, I think that's why the incentive money went so quickly, because these mini splits, a lot of HVAC contractors are installing them. So it wasn't too hard to sell customers on them. Ian, is there anything else you want to add?
No, I think, yeah, the science can get a little confusing, just the inflows and outflows. But no, I think, yeah, especially for HVAC, like heat pumps have been used in Europe specifically since the 90s. So that technology has been around for quite a while, and year after year is getting more and more efficient. I'm not totally sure why it's taken the US so long to adopt that, but yeah, as Erica mentioned, they're becoming more and more prevalent in everyday life.
Thanks. And I just allowed Angela to speak. So Angela, if you have any follow-up questions, feel free to respond, or if you feel more comfortable putting in the chat.
Thank you for answering the question. Does it do as good a job at, say, heating a home when it's 105 outside? I guess I'm just having a hard time wrapping my head around that.
So heat pumps perform, I'll just start by saying that the technology has gotten better and better. The concern originally with heat pumps was more so about cold climates. Is there enough heat in the air that you can actually heat your home with it? The technology has gotten better, and there's a guy, we can find some of his information to share too, who specializes in this. And it sounds like they've been pretty successful. In our area where we're not getting like below 0 temperatures, they function well. I did just install one in my home. I've only had to use the heater a couple times and I didn't have any issues with it. The little nuance is that it takes a little bit longer than gas it's not as immediate, but it didn't take very long to heat up. And then for air conditioning, they're even more efficient. So the concerns are more with cold weather rather than hot weather. And they really use very little energy, especially in the AC mode. They're very efficient.
That sounds like a miracle to me.
Pretty cool technology.
Yeah. Does it sound like, Angela, that we convinced you to get a heat pump? Or consider it too?
Yeah, I'm strongly considering it. Thanks.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear. Awesome. Looks like we have another question from Jeremiah. So he asked, does anyone know about how well a single unit washer and dryer work? And Jeremiah, I will promote you to if you have any follow-up to that question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't have any experience with single unit washer dryers. Erica, if you do.
I haven't used one myself, but when I lived in New York City, they're pretty common because there's just not enough space to have both. Um, so I worked on my own home renovation over this past year, and because 3C-REN had been doing so much education on electrification, I felt like, well, this is the opportunity when you're retiring the old equipment to switch everything out. So my home is fully electric, and I have a heat pump dryer. It's not one of the combined units, but I have had friends who lived in New York and used those. I would say that I have no issues with it. It takes longer to dry the clothes. And that's what I remember my friends saying back in New York too. I'm not sure why it takes longer. They are really efficient, so you're not necessarily using more energy, but you just have to plan for longer drying time. But the combined units are, pretty convenient because you don't have to go back and switch the loads. So that part of it is pretty cool.
Mhm.
Great. And Jeremiah, feel free to have any follow-up questions.
Well, I was just wondering, since it takes longer to dry, if it's going to be more not as efficient because it's taking a lot more to dry and be using more, say, greenhouse gases to dry your clothes. And I've heard a lot of bad reviews for it, so just not sure how well it works.
I put on solar at the same time that I converted appliances from gas to electric. So I'm lucky to say we've had negative electricity bills. I haven't noticed the dryer being a big energy hog. I'm trying to think of how long a cycle actually takes. Usually probably runs for about an hour and a half, I would say. So a typical unit probably is running for 40 minutes, something like that. So it is a bit longer, but again, because this is a heat pump dryer, there are just straight electric, more like electric resistance units. Those are pretty energy intensive.
Mhm.
But heat pump units, because they are just taking the heat and pulling it out, or actually, I guess in the case of the dryer, they're heating the air. To be honest, I'm not sure of all the ins and outs of how the dryers work. But again, the heat pump units are using essentially a passive source of energy rather than a fuel source like natural gas. So they don't use a lot of energy.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Yeah, and in my case, usually when I'm drying clothes, like I put it on, but it's just something happening in the background. So an hour, having an additional 40 minutes for me, at least, it's not too much of a big deal. It's just another episode I'll be watching on Netflix while I wait for my clothes to dry. Awesome. Looks like there's no more questions in the chat box. So we'll conclude the session. I'll stop the recording. And yeah, thank you everyone for sticking out here a little longer.